This is a GK Media podcast.
This podcast is part of the GK Media Studios Creators Network, helping people tell their stories. Become a storyteller today and learn about our podcaster network at gkmediastudios.com.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode with myself, Garry Kelly of GK Media, and Niall Leyden of Atlantic Wealth Management. And thank you all so much. We've gotten a brilliant response to the last few episodes that we have put out over the past few weeks, and a lot of feedback and questions. And one common theme that keeps coming up, Niall, is people are struggling with marketing, okay? They don't know what to do. And marketing is one of our core services at GK Media. So we would produce digital content like videos, podcasts, and we would provide marketing solutions like doing campaigns, social media management, social media training. And you yourself, with over 30 years experience in business, also have a degree in marketing. So marketing is our thing, really, between the two of us, and 50 years experience altogether in business. So I think there's a lot of insights and help and tips that we can give people in this episode. But first thing people really need to know is, who is their audience? Like, who is it that they want to target?
Brilliant question, Gary. I mean, we think back to the good and great and wonderful days in UCG, NUIG now. We had two professors, I think both Aidan Daly and Jim Ward.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to share the platform with, two icons in marketing. And marketing probably in the late 90s and early 90s was probably a little bit different to what it is now.
Yeah, completely.
And maybe I'm a dinosaur of sorts.
Well, I think the marketing back then was very much one-way conversations, one-way messaging. So you were putting a billboard up, you were putting an advert in the newspaper, you were throwing an advert out on the airwaves or whatever, but it was like, we're doing this, or we have this sale on. It was very much, one-way conversation, as we would say, whereas social media, the key word being social, is that it is now two-way conversation. And like what we're getting with now with the podcast is, yes, we're putting a podcast out there, but people are sending us messages. And again, if you don't know, send an email to info@garrytalks.com. If you want to get in touch with us, you can get in touch with us via social media as well. Niall with Atlantic Wealth Management is online on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. GK Media or Garry Talks are on all the main social media platforms as well. But it is this great thing now where it's an ongoing conversation. So, it's important that you find out who your target audience is, and then where are they online, and then converse with them online.
Yeah. And that journey very much has evolved. I suppose if I step back from where I've come from, 25 years being, I suppose, somewhat insulated and minded, working with Permanent TSB and Ulster Bank and Irish Life. So you had, big brands, big organizations, doing all of that.
And big budgets.
Absolutely. And now we have, two businesses peer to peer. And, we've been very much on that journey over the last 18 months. Like, marketing is something that I'm incredibly passionate about. It's something I enjoyed doing in college, and marketing is everything, because how you do everything is how you do anything.
Yeah.
But your point is well made, Gary. It's the messaging. It's how it's evolved, how it's changed. You mentioned billboards. I think of a good friend and a great entrepreneur, Pádraig Ó Chéide. You think back to, when we used to take flights from Galway to Dublin, and he put a billboard just outside of Dublin. I think it was in around Kinnegad. You'd often coming off the M50, you're stuck in traffic, you come into Luke and you're, oh my God, am I ever going to get home? And
yeah.
I can't remember exactly what was said on the billboard, but it was absolute gold. Had you flown with Air Ireland, you'd be sitting at home now with your feet up. And I mean, that was just, there's some things money can never buy.
Yeah.
So that was a really strong, brilliant, super example of a...
And what that is that's also being creative. That's not saying I have a billboard space, so I'm just going to put something up there for the sake of it, which is where a lot of people fall foul when it comes to social media, that they're putting up messages because they know they have this platform where they can post something up, but there's nothing engaging about it. There's nothing that brings value to the person who's actually looking at that post online. So you need to put in the thinking time. It's very much, quality over quantity.
Yeah.
So put in the thought process, make it worth someone's time looking at your post online, where it'll actually drive results for you, rather than saying, okay, I need to be putting up something every day or 3 times a week or something, because you're only putting it up for the sake of it. And again, social media, it is free. So it's not like the times of the banks where they had big budgets and they could be pumping in huge money into TV adverts, radio adverts, sponsoring rugby tournaments, and so on. The level field has changed now where, you're on the same platform as these big organizations.
Yeah.
So the more creative you are in the content you're putting out there, the more traction you're going to be getting, no matter who has the biggest budget to play with.
You've just reminded me of a conversation I had a couple of weeks ago. So in my time at Ulster Bank, I had the privilege of working with a really, really good colleague from Dublin. Remember meeting in Crow Park back in probably, I think, 2008 or 9, around the whole time the deck of cards, we went from a Celtic Tiger to a Celtic Crash.
Yeah.
And he reached out to me there a couple of weeks ago. He'd been seeing, LinkedIn is where we post some really good quality content. And we hadn't spoken for 15 years. And we did a 2-hour meeting now. I'm, as you know, very much a people's person.
Yeah.
85% of the business we do and the meetings we have are face-to-face. And I'm very happy with that because unless you're in a business and on the business, you're not going to feel the pulse, what's working, what's not, where they're going, what they're doing, why they're doing it. But I connected then with Paul. So Paul had been in Ulster Bank, then went to Royal Bank of Scotland, was responsible for the Six Nations, the Formula One, went to Diageo, was instrumental in coming up with them ads around Munster playing the All Blacks and them Christmas ads with the horses going up the street. And is now head of marketing with the Glen Eagles in Scotland.
Wow.
And he just said, Niall, it's not that I always remember when I first met you, it was a big organisation. We just bonded, we clicked. But his point was, he is so passionate about marketing. And he had never liked or commented or subscribed or done anything with, say, any of the content we're doing on LinkedIn. But we're getting that feedback all the time from clients. They're all the time watching. And
yeah, that's a key thing. Like, you might put up a post, you might say, oh, I've only gotten X amount of likes or X amount of comments. You don't know the true figure. You can get an idea of impressions, but you don't know who really has seen your content and the value it's bringing, the impact, and the little notes they're making in the background. And it's just those few nudges. If you're putting up really good content, that gives them the nudge to actually pick up the phone or to compose an email and to make contact with you.
Well, but think about it like this, Garry. I spend a lot of time in the car. The car is my office.
Yeah.
And, the early mornings, the late evenings, but it's the podcast, tapping into different energies, different frequencies, getting ideas, sharing, because if you're in the car for, we'll say 6 hours, 3 days a week, that's 20 hours a week where, you can listen to the news or you can dial into something, whether it's around health, around wealth. And I think back to my sister, Michelle, in Sligo saying years ago, Niall, have you listened to Garry Talks? No, many years ago it was. Seriously, this is and started listening to your podcasts and your business bites and saying, my God, that's transformative.
Yeah.
You were interviewing businesses that I'm dealing with all over the country.
Yeah.
They were telling their story very authentically and that vulnerability. And it wasn't all about how brilliant business is because we both know, that cuts both ways.
Yeah.
And look at what you've achieved, GK Media, in terms of, the entrepreneurial hitting number 1, I think, in 2024 there on Apple.
Yeah, so we're number 1 in the entrepreneurship category in Ireland for those who don't follow us online and know that, because we didn't really talk about it in a podcast. And number 3 in business, in the business category in Ireland for podcasts, which was huge. And, you're saying you're talking about different businesses, you're dealing with different businesses that I would have featured on Garry Talks. And like, I started off Garry Talks during COVID when I was in my man cave. And, I was cracking up. I didn't know what to do. So I started interviewing different business leaders out there to see what they were doing to keep their business active, to keep their doors open and so on. And it helped me keep sane. And it was when I was then traveling around the country a few months later after being deemed essential workers by the Irish government, that GK Media was back on the road doing virtual festivals and training and videos and so on, that I started meeting other business people around the country saying, oh, are you the guy who actually did that podcast? I really enjoyed it. When are you bringing it back? And I was like, oh, I had no intention or idea that I was going to bring it back. But then in 2022, I said, okay, let's bring this back. But it was that impact that I had no idea that the podcast was making. And this is what people need to bear in mind with marketing. You've no idea, but it's by putting content out there that's good, consistently putting it out there, it is creating an impact.
It makes a massive difference because it doesn't need to be. We're all perfectionists in our own mind, and we can be all very self-critical. But at the end of the day, if I look at our own little world in financial planning and wealth management, it's a very noble profession. And it's a little bit like going to a doctor. You're never going to prescribe without doing a full diagnostic. And, people might have formed an opinion for different years, over the years that it was a little bit transactional and it was all about pensions or protection or investments, whereas we're trying to reverse engineer all of that and share with our audience the importance of beginning with the end in mind and people first, money second, and dreaming someday will be the right one, and help them dreams become reality. And, when we were setting out on this journey 18 months ago, we said, well, we're fortunate enough to have a really, really strong client bank, and the vast majority of our business comes from our existing clients and from trusted tax consultants and accountants and so forth. But I suppose what fulfills me and us and our team is sharing that content consistently and partnering with, somebody like yourself and your team and GK Media to share the good news, but also at the same time share the vulnerabilities and the struggles and the tough days and the bad days. So marketing, I mean, it's a subject I think we could both talk about for weeks and months.
Yeah, like one of the reasons I got into marketing was when I set up GK Media, I had done a certain amount of marketing working in the radio station. We were very proactive in getting Facebook live and happening in the radio station. But one of the reasons I got into marketing GK Media, because initially when we set out, we were focusing really on just video production and training.
Yes.
And what happened was we were producing videos for businesses because Joe Blogs saw Mary Blogs had a video done. So Joe Blogs wanted a video done too. But then we check in with Joe and, he hadn't really done anything with the video. And I personally found that frustrating because we put so much creative energy into producing a really good video to promote the work and service that Joe provides. But the problem was Joe didn't know what to do with the video. He didn't understand marketing. He didn't understand the social media platforms at his disposal. So that's why we got into marketing, to kind of help and guide people. And that led on then to working with, the likes of Aerogen, who would be like a massive medtech company now in Ireland. And they're based in Galway, but they're based kind of all over the world now. They've kind of come from Galway.
Phenomenal, unbelievable
they're
business.
They're a brilliant company.
Domestically and internationally. I know John and his team, John was European Entrepreneur of the Year, a phenomenal, not only just a brilliant person, what he does for the community and the parish and the county. He just is so grounded, and it goes back to be where your feet are. Like, that's a prime example of a global business born, he's told the story very well of, over the post office back in the late 90s, but his values have never changed. I know John.
No.
And some of the, there's other companies and other businesses and charities you do phenomenal.
Yeah. Like we do stuff with the HSC every week, and we work with a lot of charities like Galway Hospice regularly, CRE, Act for Meningitis. And it's not that I'm talking about how great we are or what we've done, but the thing is, we wanted to help businesses with marketing. So we're going into projects with, okay, let's formalize a plan so you get the best strategic benefit from the production of this project, whether it's a video, a podcast, and so on. And what that is that we do with people is we're saying, okay, who is your audience? Who do you want to speak to? What is the best? Where is that audience then? We'll say online. So what's the best platform to be putting it on? So we know whether it needs to be vertical, whether it needs to be landscape video, how long it needs to be, and so on, the style of it. And then the messaging, that the messaging is clear. And then is there an option for, consistency and regular output and evergreen marketing from this content and so on. So you're planning things out. So it's going back to putting the billboard out there. You're putting in a lot of thought. You're not just putting something up online for the sake of it.
And it's not all about, we talked about this in a couple of our previous episodes around business. The money follows, the turnover follows, the profitability follows. You think of some of the companies and businesses you're working with, it's never about the business or about the money. It's about them sharing what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Yeah.
And how they're doing it. Yeah. And bringing that to life, because, sharing is caring. It's karma. It's the law of attraction. If you put enough of good content out there, it's the law of reciprocation.
Yeah, and sharing the story, because everyone has a unique story. And really, what is it that drives you in your business? What is it that makes you jump out of bed in the morning, put the 2 feet on the ground, and to share that story with people, because that's authentic. That comes from the heart. It's real.
So I'll ask you then. So what fills your cup? What's your 3 key drivers?
Well, I love the variety of what we do. So I can't, and I was speaking to my accountant one day and I said, I said, I can't do what you do. Like what you do Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, I can't do it. It doesn't have enough jazz and color and mix for me. And she says, Gary, I couldn't do what you do Monday to Friday. I thought, perfect. Then we're both happy with what we're doing. But so for me, it's the variety. It's doing podcasts, videos, marketing campaigns, social media management, training people up. Like if you go through the diary for us of every week, it's completely different. But if you bring it back to the core of what we do, it's helping people tell their story.
Helping people tell that. I mean, you've just captured exactly helping people, and everybody, every business, every family. You think of the kitchens around the country, the businesses, the boardrooms, the charities. Everyone has a story to tell, and two ears, one mouth. I mean, and that's what you do. That's what we're doing, or that's what we're trying to do. I mean, as business grows and families grow up, it's just having that platform, and it has changed. I mean, you look at children nowadays. We have this conversation with this lockbox at home that we don't use as often as we like. 6 o'clock, let's the four of us when we can, or 7 o'clock, depending on whether it's summer or winter, sit and talk and chat.
Yes.
People don't have time to talk anymore.
No. But I think that's what's really great about Atlantic Wealth Management, because some people go full gung-ho on online content, right?
Yeah.
And they're nearly like looking for the chatbots to converse with their customer. And what you do is you spend 3 out of 5 days during the week on the road, meeting your customers face to face. And it's such an important element that people need to be aware of and implementing in your business. Yes, marketing is essential for bringing people to your door.
Yeah.
But we're people.
We are.
So we still need that in-person experience.
And it's the profile too, Gary. I mean, in our business, we're dealing with a lot of people that are probably in their 60s. Well, they are in their 60s and 70s and some in their 80s. These are people that I first met when they were in their 40s, 50s, 60s. So, their families have grown, their businesses have grown. And Brenda will smile. She'd probably say, I'm gone 4 days a week. So, but that's what I love.
Yeah.
To answer your question,
yeah.
I mean, and it's about getting in the gym and getting the walk and getting the swim. You just got to work it in. And like the marketing, some businesses are looking to grow aggressively and others are not. But I think what's really important is sharing the good news, sharing what's working for others, because let's not create the wheel. I mean, in 50 or 60 or 70 years, we'll be history and it'll be the kids, generations evolve.
Yeah.
But I think what you're doing is great. And for our listeners, I was just amazed there when you shared all the emails and people just reaching out just for some help around marketing. There's no magic wand. I think it's the hard yards. We're still working, 50, 60 hour weeks, but is it work when you're passionate about it?
100%. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, look, hopefully that gives you an idea. I mean, we could spend hours and hours talking about marketing. If you do want to get further help about it, I'd say just even look at the website, gkmedia.ie, get an idea. But there's so much you can do in terms of e-blasts, social media content that's good and engaging, videos, podcasts. It depends on your business, what works best, but know who's the audience you want to target, know what platform they're on, figure out how to make your content engaging, tell your true, authentic story, be yourself, be consistent, dominate online, but maybe traditional marketing as well, like newspapers, radio, is more suited to your business as well, rather than online. But look, keep the messages coming in. info@GarryTalks.com is our email address. And we look forward to talking to you again next Friday with more great conversations. Niall, thanks so much.
Thanks a million.